My name is Steve Pulaski, and I had to bring this gentleman back after speaking with him last week. His story is fascinating, not to mention inspiring. While in prison, he wrote a cookbook comprised of recipes from his personal life, and beyond a cookbook, it houses information on weight loss, healthy coping mechanisms he employed himself while incarcerated, and a wealth of mob history to boot. The book is called MOBB, Cookbook and Diet. It's available at rmob.com, 2 B's and mob, and on Amazon as well. The author is Frankie Spice Morelli. Welcome back, Frankie. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
It's really good to talk to you again, Frankie. First things first, we talked about the book last time. You gave some pretty good detail about it. I got some more questions for you. I guess starting with how the book came to be. Can you describe writing this book in prison? How did it begin?
Well, basically, I really had nothing better to do because I was in prison. So I figured I might make good use of my time. And, of course, I became a suicide companion, helping people straighten out their lives, and I worked out quite a bit. And then I wrote 3 books. One, which is this cookbook. Another one, which was called The Psych Ward, about my experience as a suicide companion. And the other one called The Outlaws of Wall Street. So I was busy writing, and it's a lot harder to get things done in prison because they don't have typewriters with a memory. They have the old-fashioned typewriters, so if you make a mistake, you got to correct it. And I wrote it all by hand, and then I had some other people type it up. But I had a great deal of food experience because I had an award-winning restaurant and an international pasta company. So I put a lot of that to use when I was writing the book. And then I wanted to have recipes that were healthy so people could lose weight. And I also realized, being a wrestler that used to cut weight all the time, that you have to have a cheat day because if you don't, nobody's going to stick to a diet long term. And you had to make it fun and interesting. So I believe we checked all the boxes as far as that goes. And every recipe literally tells a story. We have stories about real funny mob guys that let me put them in the book because I had to get their permission, if you know what I mean. And then I have other stories of inspiration about people that were like hooked on drugs, were in prison 16 years. They turned their lives around. I have one inspirational story about a young lady that was diagnosed with autism when she was 3 years old. And yet she's been in several beauty pageants, been featured in several magazines. She's sung opera twice at Madison Square Garden. She's been featured on the marquee at Times Square and on the marquees in Las Vegas, and also the main actress in a movie about autism. So the book is basically about people overcoming obstacles in life. No matter who you are or what the obstacles are, you can overcome them if you put your mind to it. And that combined with diet and exercise, positive thinking, you're going to be successful.
What was prison life like for you, Frankie, beyond writing the book?
Well, to start, it was really tough because I'd never been in prison or even in jail a day in my life. So, I'm 59 years old. I'm 2,000 miles away from home, and I got thrown into a really, really rough situation, and that basically made it really hard on me. And I was very depressed. I was even thinking about suicide for a while. I had to see a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and I had to go get on different forms of medication, such as Ramon. And then I realized once I started working out, I started feeling better about myself. And then once I started helping other people overcome their problems, it made me feel good. And in fact, when I finally did get sentenced, 3 of the families that I helped save their kin's lives went and testified on my behalf in front of the judge.
What kind of food did you eat in prison, Frankie?
In Philadelphia, it was horrible. It wasn't like the restaurants in Philadelphia. There was a lot of soy this, soy that. If they gave you chicken, which I didn't eat much, it was like mussels and tendons and stuff like that. The food was horrendous, to be honest with you. And it got better when I went to the camp in Colorado, and I worked in the kitchen. And, of course, we had stuff smuggled in, like extra virgin olive oil, fresh garlic, so I could make different sauces and things, kind of like Goodfellas, the kitchen scene in Goodfellas.
In Mob Cookbook and Diet, you say you want to keep the Morelli-Mafia legacy alive. Do you care to share any stories from your upbringing or lessons that are embedded in your family legacy, Frankie?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, I grew up in southern Colorado, which is Florence Canyon City and Pueblo, Colorado. Both my grandpas came over on the boat from Italy. And basically, my one grandfather made Dago Red, so he dealt with the mafia because he helped like bootlegging and stuff like that. And southern Colorado had more Italians per capita than anywhere in the United States. Not as many total, but per capita. In fact, if you go to the MOBB Museum in Las Vegas, you'll see New York City, Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, and of all places, Pueblo, Colorado, because we had what you call the Rocky Mountain Mafia. And there is a book about the Rocky Mountain Mafia with all kinds of really good stories. But anyway, my grandfather was involved with the local mafia guys in Fremont County, and Canyon City was heavy with Ku Klux Klan, and they were prejudiced against Italians, blacks, Jewish people, etc. And they got into a little bit of a beef. And guess what? The KKK quickly exited Fremont County, Colorado. And then my very best friend's dad worked for the mafia in our little town of Florence, Colorado, and he did all the slot machines for them, okay? And they had them in the Elks Club and all the businesses. And about an hour before the sheriff's office was going to raid the Elks Club and the other clubs, my friend's dad would get a phone call. So my friend was like 6 or 7. He would go with his dad, a couple other guys, and they would remove all the slot machines out of the various businesses. Then the sheriff's office would go in, do their inspection. Then once they were gone, they would put them back in again. So those are a couple stories that happened in my neighborhood.
Absolutely priceless. He is Frankie Spice Morelli, author of MOBB Cookbook and Diet, available at rmobb.com and also on Amazon. MOBB, M-O-B-B, Frankie, stands for Mercy and Optimism Beyond Borders. Where did you come up with that moniker?
Well, basically, my friend and I developed the MOBB brand before we went into prison. We even did a cooking show pilot, but he got into trouble because he got in a fight with the guy half his age and ended up in prison because he beat him up. And I ended up in federal prison. And I had previously written a cookbook for him called Tony Ian's The MOBB Chef. So the acronym MOBB, we wanted to get people attracted with all the stuff about mafia, but we wanted to help people. So we felt that MOBB, were even mobsters, was mercy and optimism beyond borders, every second chance, including those people such as myself who have fallen in line. And nobody's perfect. Everybody has a vice, whether it's chocolate, gambling, drugs, drinking, or whatever. So we wanted the book to be about inspiration. And a lot of the mafia guys in my book are out now, and they've cleaned up their lives, and they're helping people. Even my one buddy, Tyree the Gangster Scott, he was a Crip when he was 8 years old. He was in prison 16 years. Now he's an upstanding member of the community. He's a mentor for inner city youth, a Mason, and he runs about 3 businesses. And he was a Crip. Another one of my friends that was a Crip, who was a shot caller for the Crips, his name is John Air Moore. But he's a rapper now, and he goes by the handle Get Paid Spade, and he does good for people. And so whether it's Italian, Irish, African-American, Chinese, there's different kinds of mafia. But once they make their mind up, they can change. And people can change no matter what.
Several recipes and anecdotes from your book mention your Grandma B. Can you describe Grandma B and what she meant to you?
Okay. Well, Grandma B was my mom, Bernice, and my other grandma, her mother was my grandma, Angelina. While my mother was the world's best mother. She was a fantastic cook. She was hard-headed. You know, once in a while she might throw some pans at my dad, but anyway, but she was a good lady. She was a librarian at the Florence Public Library for about 30 years, and she was a very creative cook. She would dream up things that nobody else had ever thought of. And when we had our restaurant, people would come from all over to eat her rum cake, her cream puffs, and her various Italian delicacies. And then my grandma was the one that taught me how to make pasta when I was 4 years old, and she lived right across the street. And her name was Angelina, and my mom's name was Bernice. So that's why Grandma B's Beef Abruzia in the book. It's tender, more tender than any barbecue you've ever eaten, and it's made with San Marzano tomatoes and garlic. And you just cook it slow for hours, and it's incredible. You can even make a chili out of it or any kind of Italian dishes with her recipe. And my grandma was such a good cook that people would drive from all over to eat her baked oven bread, which was cooked in an outdoor bake oven. And so that's where my mother and my grandmother were the inspiration to me cooking.
What is the next dish you plan to cook for you, yourself, or your family in your personal life, Frankie? I have to know.
Well, I'm going to have something simple, which will be probably today, spaghetti with Supremo San Marzano tomato sauce and the meatballs Magnifico, because it's just simple. In fact, I'm having some friends tonight, which I will be preparing that for them. And it's simple, but it's good. And sometimes simple is the best.
When cooking, too, is there an ingredient that is commonly used or something that you find either overrated or you just do not like at all? You don't want it anywhere near your dishes or anything like that? Is there an ingredient that you just find either overrated or even overused?
Yes. I'll tell you two ingredients that are overrated and overused. One is oregano, unless you're using it in pizza sauce, and the other one is sugar, okay? A really good tomato sauce doesn't need either one. Because if you use San Marzano tomatoes, which are the best tomatoes on earth to use for sauces, they're naturally sweet. They're consistent. So you don't need to put a ton of sugar, and you don't need to put any oregano, because the sauce tastes great just like that. In fact, my buddy Tony, who's one of the world's best chefs, used to make sauce with bad tomatoes. And I thought he was going to kill me when I said, Tony, your sauce has a bad aftertaste, and so do your meatball. And he's a million times better cook. But I told him, and I showed him, and guess what? Now he uses my San Marzano tomato sauce and my meatball recipe, because he was putting a ton of sugar, a ton of oregano, and a ton of other ingredients that he didn't need to. The simple sauce tastes better. So in my estimation, oregano and sugar are overrated.
You heard it right from Frankie Spice Morelli. Again, Frankie, it's been a true privilege to talk to you once again. I want to give you the final word once more to talk about the MOBB diet, the MOBB cookbook and diet, whatever you'd like to promote. Where can people find you, follow you on Instagram? The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, it would be great if you would go to Amazon, and if you like our book, once you get it, give us a review, because that will help us build our brand. And our brand has a lot of other items that we're coming out with, including the body bag, which is a water workout bag. And it's better for you than weights. We've got several health experts behind that. So we're planning on bringing out a whole line of products that are related to changing your life for the good. So we appreciate all your support. And also, please send me your address, because I'm going to send you another 8 books to do as giveaways for your show.
I really appreciate that, Frankie. We will talk after this interview. He is Frankie Spice Morelli. I greatly appreciate your time, Frankie. I wish you nothing but good health, good spirits, and good food in your future, my friend. It's been a true pleasure.
And it's been a pleasure, and I'd like to come back on again. Thank you.